What a crowd, what a main event, what a night. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WWE Vengeance 2002. I did actually retro review this about 5 years ago, but I decided, fuck it. It's one of my favorite WWE pay-per-views in the 2000s. I really just fucking love it. Even though if you just look at the results, you might think, wow, really? This event? Like, this event is one of your favorites? There's a big reason for this. One, the main event. Undertaker versus Rock versus Kurt Angle. Three of the biggest talents of that time period, human centipede together for the Undisputed Championship. It was just a raucous, wild main event. One of my favorite WWE matches of all fucking time. I fucking love it. I love it every single goddamn time I watch it. And the undercard, well, yes, there are some matches that are a little bit rushed. And bell-to-bell action for a lot of these matches is under 10 minutes. The big reason, the crowd. The Joe Louis Arena was on fucking fire at this point, which might explain why it had to be demolished in 2017. I kid, of course. 12,000 people, very, very loud. I will say Detroit, certainly a hotbed for professional wrestling, going back to the days of the Sheik, and just, a lot of great wrestling shows, at the Joe Louis Arena. Okay, maybe you could just ignore the whole thing that happened at Halloween Havoc 95. The Yeti! Is that a head he's got on or a stump? So, they did open with a religious type thing with Ezekiel 25:17. I'm not familiar with the Bible except to say that it's all just a bunch of stories, and everything. That's all it is. Just be a better person. Don't use it to justify your fucking bigotry and your fucking goddamn blindness. So anyway, nevertheless, Trust Company's downfall was the theme. I actually really liked that song. I wonder what the fuck happened to Trust Company. They had like 2 songs that I remember, and that's it. So the heat match was Goldust versus Stevie Richards. Oh darn, I didn't get to see Stevie Richards, no nutcase on a show. Darn. So anyway, Cole and Taz called the first half. And yes, this was during the initial part of the brand split. And it was kind of cool that they actually made it feel like a, inter-promotional war. Even though we all knew they worked for the same goddamn company. But at least they tried to make it seem good in 2002, even 2003, and then by 2004, they didn't really give a shit anymore. JR and King called the second half. And, well, this crowd was up. Howard Finkel's ring announcer. Rest in peace, Howard Finkel. Really, really sad how his life ended. Health issues just took hold. But one of the best, if not the best ring announcer of all time, in all honesty. Depends on when you grow, like, very, very iconic. Scheduled for one fall, and no! I can't really do a great Howard Finkel impression. But what I can talk about is Bubba Ray Dudley, noted mid-carder that really only became a main eventer during one of the, well, not so great periods of TNA, in my personal opinion. And he teamed up with Spike Dudley. Take on Eddie Guerrero and renowned murderer Chris Benoit. The Chris Benoit defenders, fuck off. I don't care if people thought he was a great technical wrestler. Sure he was, but you know what? He murdered his wife and child and took his own life. He knew what he was doing. He fucking did. So just fuck off with that stuff. It was an elimination tag team tables match, and while it was very good, it's very hard to watch a Chris Benoit match. Of course, Benoit did target Spike because he used him as a precursor to what he would do to Nancy and Daniel just under 5 years later. I miss Eddie Guerrero is what I noted. The match was very well worked. They worked it like a tag match and implemented the tables later. The eliminations came fast and furious. And at one point, Benoit continues a relentless pressure. Pushing down on me, pushing down. Oh my god, this pillow's here. Anyway, Spike puts himself through a goddamn table doing the acid drop the Dudley Dog. Eddie's ribs hit the tape. That looked really bad. And then Benoit just press slamming Spike through the table. That's basically how he put Daniel to bed, especially that one night. I'm done with these jokes. Bubba puts Benoit through a table with the Bubba Bomb, and that's it. Bischoff is trying to get Triple H to sign with him, but who will he sign with? He goes into Stephanie McMahon's office. Oh, no, they used to be together. Oh, no, he's going to sign with her. And this is a storyline that continues throughout the night. Jamie Noble with Nydia took on Billy Kidman for the Cruiserweight Championship. I feel bad for Nydia. I think Nydia got a bit of a Raw deal, ironically, considering I think she ended her career on Raw. Well worked. There was some good near falls. Jamie was more of a ground-based worker, but could take to the air. And this is when he was doing the, it's like, we got a double wide, baby. Yee-haw! Doing all the crazy thing. And boy, I can really sound like a goddamn redneck when I try. There was a Miss Shooting Star. We got the powerbomb for we had the powerbomb for 3. It wasn't a bad match. It was a little bit rushed, but 7.5 minutes, pretty good action. There you go. And then Mark Lloyd, remember Mark Lloyd, the backstage interviewer? You'd be remiss if you didn't remember him. You'd actually be forgiven if you didn't remember him because he wasn't around for all that long. He interviews Angle. And Angle knocks Detroit's auto workers. If maybe they made better cars, the economy wouldn't be in the shitter. And then Heyman introduces the Beast to Bork Laser. Very, very young Brock here. And him and Angle shake hands, and Angle basically says, well, it's not the summer of Brock, it's all your Angle. That was good shit. Man, just looking at, this is just, it's so cool. See, it's back also when Heyman wasn't the Walrus Cuckoo Cachoo. And then Jeff Hardy took on William Regal for the European Championship, and Regal had lost the championship 2 weeks prior and cried about losing a European Championship. Jeff Hardy won with a roll-up in a few minutes. There wasn't much to this, but the crowd was into it. Man, the crowd really loving Jeff Hardy. God, if only Jeff could have kept the fucking head on straight. But alas, 20 years later, he still can't. And I hope he gets better, but I'm done having sympathy. But that being said, at this time, he just had that very, very good match against The Undertaker just under 3 weeks prior on Raw. Undisputed title ladder match. Great shit. And we also found out why Jeff Hardy shouldn't have talked by that point. But that being said, Flair is backstage praising Jeff. Hogan praises Jeff. And then they talk about the old days and talk about Bischoff running companies into the ground and Stephanie McMahon not being able to be trusted. This is also shortly after Flair had been, the 50-50 owner with Vince, had turned heel, had battled Hogan for the Undisputed Championship at one point. And all this was happening around that time. But after Austin had taken his ball and gone home, and that was 6 weeks prior to this, about that, they're just friends again. And Hogan labored and basically, muttering under his breath constantly when people want to shake his hand, that doesn't work for me, brother. And they just talk a little bit. Then we get Jericho versus John Cena. Cena's last pay-per-view match, I don't think we ever saw this guy again. I mean, he just certainly went away. We never saw him again. I kid. This ended up being, his only pay-per-view match for a while, but then he got bigger and got better, and the rap gimmick basically saved him, and there you go. So, Jericho dominates, but ends up getting hit with the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, the surprise roll-up 1, 2, 3. And then we go backstage. Stephanie's attorney is delivering papers. And Bischoff is upset. No, how can he betray me? JR and Kane come out to call the second half. We get a package on the Beast Bork Laser and all his dominant stuff and then battling RVD. And what led to this? It's the Beast Bork Laser versus Rob Van Dam. Okay, I didn't really do that correct, but nevertheless. In Detroit, Michigan, which I assume is near Battle Creek. I don't think Michigan's a very wide state besides the lakes, so I don't really know. But it was for the Intercontinental Championship. RVD, shockingly over. I kid, of course. RVD may be one of the most organically over talents of the last, I'd say from about 97 to 2006? Maybe even 2007, actually, for about a 10-year period. I mean, he was over when he first got, after he acclimated himself to ECW. He wasn't really over as Robbie V, but then again, nobody was really over at that point in WCW. RVD, organically over. Really was, and people loved him here. He hit and run, did some good stuff, threw Brock off his balance, and then Brock took over, hitting a slam on the outside, which sounded like a freaking watermelon burst. Sounded like a watermelon burst, it sounded like water balloons, just that. Kidney splattering. He targets the back, beats him up, and RVD does come back. He hits a frog splash after he got caught doing a frog splash, or got caught trying to do one. He hit a DDT. Hit a bit, he did that, got up, did the frog splash, and then Heyman pulls the referee out, Charles Robinson, and that's a DQ. And then RVD hits Heyman, I think in one of the last bumps he took. I think he took like a bump in 2003, and that was about it. And then Charles Robinson hits him with like the worst windmill punches you will ever see. But then again, Charles Robinson's lucky that he was living after Randy Savage accidentally cracked some of his ribs at the Great American Bash 99. Look it up. It wasn't pretty. And that was it. RVD still getting over. RVD, however, does try to go for the Van Terminator. Heyman stops him. Bork hits a throw onto the chair and F5 on the chair. And there you go. So RVD still stays over. Bork looks tough. Bischoff then is just upset. Stephanie, well, he didn't sign. No, he signed. No, how could he do this? And he's yelling at Triple H, those are my divorce papers. Yeah, good job, Bischoff. He jumped the gun. But then we find out a little bit later what happened. After Booker T versus The Big Show. Remember when the NWO was a thing for like a little bit and then it got watered down after Nash got hurt, tore his quad. Scott Hall got fired after the plane ride from hell thing. Hogan had turned babyface before that. And it was X-Pac, Big Show, Booker T. They tried to get Booker T in the NWO. They got Shawn Michaels as the leader of the NWO for like 3 weeks. I think it was 3 weeks. It might have just been 2. It was ridiculous. This is all because one of them used a chair recently on a Raw. I think it was Big Show, and this match sucked. This sucked. The scissor kick spot, the scissoring on the announcer's table was nice. No, the scissor kick through the announcer's table was pretty cool. And eventually, Houston Hangover 1, 2, 3. Moving on. Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie are at WWE New York. Vince McMahon's a jackass for firing Dawn Marie while pregnant. I'm not saying Dawn Marie would have ever been anybody viable in the company, especially by that point when they had booked her the way they booked her. But to fire somebody while they're pregnant, come on. But then again, look at how Vince has probably treated quite a few women. Are we really shocked? No. This, by the way, was before the Dawn Marie married to Tori Wilson's dad, Al Wilson, and the funeral and all the bullshit. Boy, that was certainly an angle, wasn't it? Bischoff is talking to Triple H because Triple H is in the ring, and who will he align with? He says, hey, Rock's in Hollywood. I want to put you in Hollywood. I have contacts. It's terrible because I should be wearing my glasses. Give me my glasses. I can't see without my glasses. Don't stand. Don't stand. Don't stand so close to bees. And now, whenever you watch My Girl, that is what you're going to hear. Assuming you even know what the fuck My Girl is. If you are basically under the age of 30, you probably don't know. Because the movie came out, I think, 31 years ago. Nevertheless, Stephanie's here to plead her case. He says, Eric, I could tell you screw you and you wouldn't like it. And I could tell Steph, screw you, and I know she likes it. Which is fun. I mean, that was funny. That was funny. That was funny. We ignore the fact around this time, a year prior, China was out of the company because of what Stephanie and Triple H did. And whatever, and whew. That being said, he will go to SmackDown to be with the devil he knows. Here's Shawn Michaels, by the way, to say, hey, don't do that. Come have fun. Let's have some fun or whatever. I wanted you to be the NWO, but now everybody's hurt. We dissolved that because Vince decided the NWO wasn't making any money because he booked it into goddamn oblivion. And how he booked it into a Tom Cruise movie that hadn't come out yet, I have no idea. And Triple H says, sorry, Steph, and he joins his friend, and then turns on his friend the next night, and we lead to SummerSlam 2002. I will also retro review at some point. And Bischoff, I win, you lose. The big difference is, Stephanie, I have testicles, and then she slaps him. If she kicked him in the nuts, it would have been even better. And then here is Rikishi backstage to say, well, I hope the Triple H can live with his decision. By the way, Rikishi had such a messy thing after he did it for The Rock. He did it for you people. Sorry, 1996 Hulk Hogan took over. And then we get Booker T and Goldust talking to Terry. This is shortly after Dustin had harassed Terry. After they had been divorced, I believe. Poor Terry. Poor Terry Rawls. She seemed so nice, and she should have been utilized better. But nevertheless, Booker basically was wondering what the hell Goldust is talking about, playing with joysticks, video games. Can you dig that, sucker? Just does the normal thing. And the Un-Americans. That was so short-lived. If I can be serious for a minute, I love Lance Storm. Lance is such a great follow on Twitter. So sarcastic, so dry-witted. Edge gets a pop. So does Hogan. They added out Voodoo Child because fuck your music rights. Voodoo Child fit pretty goddamn well. despite the fact that we know how Hogan feels about people like Jimi Hendrix. The Un-American, Storm and Christian taking on Edge and Hogan. It's a tag title match. And if you thought that Hogan wasn't going to have this thing overbooked to the goddamn max so he didn't look weak in defeat, you don't know Hulk Hogan very well, do you? By the way, Randy Savage, always better than Hulk Hogan. Hogan no-sells everything at first. Edge gets targeted for a while, tags Hogan. Hogan battles and everything, hits a leg drop, Storm breaks it up. They hit him for a bit, Edge gets tagged, and then we get a ref bump. And then Test interferes. Rikishi fights off with him. And then Jericho runs in, hits Edge with the tag title belt, and scurries off. Storm covers 1, 2, 3. New tag team champions. The Un-Americans did not last very long. I think shortly after... Was after SummerSlam or Unforgiven? I think it was after Unforgiven they disbanded, which is weird. But anyway, Bischoff is talking to Angle, fine after his slap, and says, Angle, come to Raw with the Undisputed title. Angle's like, I'm going to go win the Undisputed title and then I'll talk to you. Okay. So, Stephanie is talked to by Mark Lloyd, and she says, I'm going to rip the heart out of Raw. Okay. You know, Benoit tried ripping a heart out or whatever, and that's why Nancy had to put her back into the relationship. Ah, you thought I was done with those jokes. Video package on the three-way on what Undertaker has done to be dominant, what Rock has done to be dominant, and Angle getting his head shaved and going nuts. But Angle bald honestly worked by that point because he had the bald spots in like late 2000. It was overdue. Rock versus Angle versus Taker. Three-way Undisputed Championship match. I can't really get into too much detail about this because everybody just gets a chance to shine. Angle's dominant for a bit. He bleeds at one point. We get a chair involved. We get great pacing. Everybody gets a chance to shine. Taker takes over for a bit. Takering over, as it were. Rock, this is pretty much the end of his full-time run. Because he would come back at No Way Out 2003. The Mania 19, and then Backlash 2003, and then would only have the Mania 20 appearance. And then while he would make appearances, they would let his contract run out and say, that's okay. When Hollywood stops calling him, he'll come back to us. Well, that didn't fucking work out very well. But this is great shit. And like I said, Angle was bleeding. Rock was doing some great stuff. Taker at this point was motivated, actually doing some shit. This is, of course, months before he caved in Canyon's head. But there was like the triangle choke spot. Everybody used each other's finishers. Rock, who people forget is 6'5", hit a choke slam on Undertaker. That was a cool spot. Taker did the angle slam. Everybody did everything they could, but it made sense. And then Angle laid out Taker with the angle slam, pulled down his straps, got hit with the rock bottom. 1, 2, Taker goes, and 3. Just doesn't quite get there in time. And that's it. Undertaker loses the Undisputed Championship without being pinned. And that's the way you do things. And then Rock went on to drop the title to Brock the month afterwards at SummerSlam, which that review, again, will be coming up here in just a little bit. Probably in about a week. Anyway, agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.